Hello, back again on the Top Recap channel. This time I will tell a movie's entitled Last Seen Alive. Let's get straight into the storyline. The story will focus on a married couple, Will and Lisa. They are both on their way to Lisa's parents' house, which is quite far from the city. Lisa intends to put her mind at ease at her parents' house after making the fatal mistake of having an affair with another man. Where other husbands might divorce or leave their wives, Will graciously forgives Lisa's actions and allows her to stay temporarily at her parents' house.
Of course I am.
When they got close to Lisa's parents' house, about 15 minutes away, Will decided to stop for petrol. Lisa also got out of the car to buy water and food at a nearby convenience store. In the toilet, Lisa received another message from her ex-fair, who kept pressuring her to continue their affair. However, Lisa, who had had enough, ignored the messages.
Yeah.
As she was about to return to the car, a stranger called her from a distance. It was unclear who the man was and what his purpose was. However, after 3 minutes had passed since Lisa had not appeared, Will immediately looked for her, checked the toilets, asked the cashier, and looked around the convenience store.
Lisa! What the fuck? Alright, listen, you gotta call me back. I'm looking for you. I'm getting worried.
After wandering around the petrol station, Will still couldn't find Lisa. He decided to ask the cashier for the address of the petrol station and the phone number of the local police.
101 Route 64.
Is there a local number for the police here?
Will was eventually connected to a police detective named Patterson, who asked Will to remain calm as he would be on his way to the scene soon.
I checked the whole damn gas station. I've been all around the front and the back. And be as quick as you can, okay?
Stay by your phone, keep your phone on.
Unable to just wait, Will decided to go to Lisa's parents' house in case Lisa arrived first. However, when he got there, Lisa's parents were confused because Lisa had not arrived home.
Yeah.
Right? And call me if you hear anything.
I will, I promise.
Right.
Will returns to the petrol station and meets the detective who has just arrived. They both ask the cashier about the CCTV cameras in the place. The cashier says that all the CCTV cameras there happen to be broken as the technicians keep delaying the repairs. As a result, there are no clues that could help Will search for Lisa. The detective asks permission to return to the office to check Lisa's personal belongings. However, when the detective had left, Will noticed that one of the CCTV cameras was still active.
Yeah, he said it to me, he said it to the detective.
It's because it's busted.
Right.
Angry, Will forces the cashier to hand over the CCTV footage to the detective.
Oh!
Patterson.
Oscar gave it to me.
That damn Oscar. Let's go plug it in.
The CCTV footage shows a bald-headed, bearded man wearing a plaid shirt calling and inviting Lisa into the car. This suggests that Lisa may recognize the man.
He has to have taken it.
All right.
That's your man.
Go in another room, ask you a few questions in private?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Will was interrogated to find out if any internal issues led to Lisa's disappearance, such as an argument between the two of them. However, Will explains that although their relationship was strained due to the affair, they did not have a big fight. Will was convinced that Lisa's disappearance was purely a case of kidnapping.
I don't get the relevance of this.
Okay.
The detective and his team immediately investigated the case, and Will was allowed to go home. However, as a responsible husband, Will didn't want to go home and keep quiet. Armed with CCTV footage, Will returned to Lisa's parents' house to ask if they knew the man in the video. When asked, Lisa's parents recognized the man as Lisa's school friend, who used to work in their house as a repairman. The man's name was Knuckles, and he lived nearby.
That's Knuckles. That's our handyman.
So where's Morrison's?
Right
so
there.
where?
I was in Lethbridge. I stopped.
Will immediately went to Knuckles' house to find out what he meant by bringing Lisa with him. On the way, Will called the detective to confirm that they were busy looking for clues so that he could act on his own to save his wife.
Have you heard anything? Seen anything?
Not yet, but we're on it.
Okay.
She turns up, give us a call.
I'll let you know as soon as I hear anything.
Arriving at Knuckles' house, Will went inside with a crowbar.
Oh, she is.
Listen, you fucking calm down.
Don't fucking my wife, Lisa. You know.
Okay, stop! Stop!
Swear to God, I'll smash your fucking skull.
After beating Knuckles up, Knuckles finally confessed that he did kidnap Lisa, but not of his own free will. He was ordered by someone named Frank and agreed to bring Will to his place.
I'll get you to Frank. Tell she's with Frank.
At high speed, Will heads towards Frank's location, while Knuckles is tied to the trunk of the car. On the way, Will is stopped by an officer for driving too fast.
How you doing today, sir?
Would you mind stepping out of the vehicle, please?
Just,
However, not wanting to waste any time, Will chooses to run into the forest towards Frank's location, ignoring every risk to save his beloved wife. Just then, Will came across an ATV parked like that. He almost stole it, but the owner was there. Thinking this man was Frank's man, Will pretended to know Knuckles and said that he had an appointment with Frank.
he introduced me to Frank. I'm here to do some business with him.
When the man tries to contact Frank but fails due to a bad signal, the guard finally allows Will to enter. Fearing that Will is an important person and is being waited for by Frank, the guard finally allows Will to enter. As a former presidential security guard who successfully protected the President of the United States several times in London, Will was deftly able to paralyze the people at the location one by one. Frank turns out to be the boss of a drug manufacturing center, whose headquarters are right where Will is now. While Will is one step ahead, Detective Patterson has just met Lisa's parents and learned that the man on the tape is Knuckles, Lisa's old schoolmate. Shortly after, Patterson gets a report that Will's car was found on the highway with Knuckles strapped to the boot. While Will is still sneaking around observing the situation, Detective Patterson interrogates Knuckles about his motives for kidnapping Lisa. The main reason Knuckles did it was the same as most people's motives, namely economics.
You tell me where Lisa is, and I'll walk into court. I'll tell them how cooperative you've been. I'll sing your praises to the rooftops.
Knuckles thought that if he kidnapped Lisa, then her wealthy husband, Will, would be willing to pay a large ransom. However, when Lisa was kidnapped, Knuckles was confused about what to do next and where to hide her. Finally, Knuckles takes Lisa to Frank's place, which is, in fact, a drug manufacturing center. Knuckles, who initially thought Frank would be happy, instead found Frank angry and told him to kill Lisa, a potential witness.
Lisa Adams.
Pete, oh, that's you. Okay, they're so happy with it. I can't wait to see it.
Shut the fuck up. Get in the fucking car. Don't be stupid. Just get in. Get in the fucking car.
Swear to God, I just wanted the fucking money.
Back to Will, who is checking one room after another until finally meeting directly with Frank and one of his men. There is a little tension between them.
Whoa. The fuck? Just tell me where she is. Please. Tell me.
However, when communication isn't enough to make them understand, Will is forced to take further action. After a shootout ensues, and Frank is killed before any information can be obtained, Will comes out crying because he still doesn't know where Lisa is, or if she's alive. Just as Will is about to give up hope, he meets a convenience store cashier who turns out to be a drug dealer on the side. When asked about Lisa's whereabouts, the cashier initially pretends not to know. However, when Will offers him some money, he is immediately willing to show him where Lisa is, as long as he can get the money. But suddenly, after the shootout, there was an explosion due to burning chemicals.
I might have known I'd see you here.
Huh? Yeah, now we're talking.
Yeah, now we're talking.
You think
Now, Will really has no more clues to find where Lisa is. Not long after, Detective Patterson arrived with the police to secure the place. Will was told to stay put and not go anywhere because his actions towards Knuckles were clearly intolerable. Even though Knuckles was the perpetrator, Will had bypassed the officer's investigation, which was a serious offense.
Stay put.
Just like Will, Detective Patterson was confused and anxious about Lisa's fate, whether she was alive or dead. It was then that, using his husband's instincts, Will sensed Lisa's presence in the neighborhood. When Will opened a small warehouse, he found Lisa there bound, but fortunately alive and well. After it was all over, Detective Patterson realized that Will had been in the crossfire and killed Frank and his men. Patterson could have prolonged the matter, as it was already a serious criminal offense. However, thanks to Will's service in accidentally dismantling the drug base, Detective Patterson decided to let Will go and say thank you. In the future, Will was asked to be more alert so as not to lose his wife again.